So, Afua, thanks so much for popping in to have a chat about publicity for British. What we really want to get across in the campaign generally, and when you come to speak at the Barbican, is the kind of breadth and depth of your experience and the expertise that's gone into this book. Your time as a barrister, your work in human rights, your career as a journalist at The Guardian and Sky News. Everybody at Vintage is so excited about this book, and we all feel it's one that we badly need right now, so can't kind of wait to hear what you're going to say at the Barbican. Do you already have something prepared?
I do have, a couple of scribbles,
Great. Do you want to kind of maybe stand there, face this way and pretend there's an audience there? You can just ignore me, pretend I'm not here.
So you mean just do a rehearsal in this empty room?
Yeah, I think it would just help to get things going.
Let's try it.
Go for it.
Hello, everyone. Empty room, people. Where are you from? That is what I call the question. For almost as long as I can remember, it's something that I have been asked almost every day of my life. And in some ways, I don't mind answering it. I have an interesting family background. My paternal grandfather was a Jewish refugee from Nazi Germany just before the Second World War. My maternal grandparents were political exiles from Ghana in the 1960s. But the thing is, I have plenty of white British friends with equally fascinating immigration backgrounds, but they don't get asked the question. The cumulative effect of me being asked the question so frequently has been the unsettling sense that if you look like me, you can't just be British. Over time, being asked the question, I decided that I needed an answer. I think that the question is a clue to something much greater than me, though. It's a clue to the fact that Britishness is an identity in crisis. No one seems very clear about what Britishness is. No one even seems sure what words they're allowed to use. Is it okay to call people black? What about mixed race? Is that all right to use? Some people are simply hyphenating their way around the problem. They say they're Black British, or British Muslim, or even Afro-Saxon, one of my personal favourites. I decided I needed an answer to the question. If people kept asking me where I was from, I reasoned I couldn't just be British. So I decided that I was African. And my partner always makes fun of the way that I was dressed when I met him. It was 2005 in Parliament. I'd just come back from living in Senegal in West Africa, and I was covered with bits and pieces of African cloth and jewelry. And almost everyone else at this event was over 50 and white. He was a young black man, same age as me. He was wearing a suit and a Diamante earring, and he intrigued me. And I don't usually do this, not that there's anything wrong with it, but I went straight up to him at the reception afterwards, and I said, "Who are you?" And so it began. It turned out that we were enrolled in bar school the following year in the same class at the same school. We're from very different backgrounds. He is from a single-parent family in Tottenham. He grew up experiencing the kind of poverty I didn't even know existed when I grew up. I grew up in Wimbledon, which is a very affluent, leafy suburb of South London, famous for quintessentially English lawn tennis and strawberries and cream. The narrative is that he has had a deprived life and I've had a privileged one. And in many ways, it's true. But at the same time, when I meet black people in Britain, they often ask me the question as well. And they say, "You're not a proper black person." Our sense of what it means to be black is inherently bound up with deprivation and poverty as well. And I always envied his sense of identity, his cultural certainty. He is Black British. There I go, hyphenating again. He feels at ease with Black British subculture, with its cultural reference points, in ways that I never did. We were together for a full 7 years before I found out where he's from. Maybe I should have asked him the question. And when I did, I introduced him to my grandmother, thinking that I was just introducing this random boyfriend that I'd met in London and been with for 7 years. And my grandmother, the woman who fled Ghana in the 1960s, fleeing not just the political turbulence, but also the turbulence in her own family and in the village. And I introduced her to someone who it turns out isn't just from Ghana like her, not even just from the same region as her, not even just the same village, but somebody who is from the same part of the same village. I'd gone and fallen in love with basically her next-door neighbour's son. And I don't think this is a coincidence, because I grew up feeling alienated and othered in Britain, in my own home. And in my experience, threatened identities don't disappear, they just grow stronger. And I think what I did was latch on to somebody who represented to me, even unknowingly, as I had no idea where he was from. I couldn't even have named this part of the village. I didn't know its name. I latched on to somebody who represented the unbroken cultural heritage of my mother's ancestral homeland. And I believe that what happened in my heart is what's playing itself out all over Britain now on a mass scale. Britishness is an identity in crisis. Many British people feel that their sense of identity is under threat. And so they are falling in love with a narrative that represents the perceived certainty of the past. The problem is there are so many flaws with that sense of certainty. There are too many unspoken and often avoided truths about what Britishness is, about our attitudes towards beauty, physical superiority, race, the way that people of minority heritage are depicted in the media, and I've experienced this firsthand as a journalist and as a news anchor, in literature, in the arts, and in film. And our failure to grapple with the truths about what Britain really is today is creating a void. Into that void, all kinds of toxic political narratives and manipulative nostalgia is flourishing. Last year's events only go to prove how powerful a force that can be and how seismic its effects. I've written this book because I believe it's urgent, but it's not just, in truth, because of the current political and social situation in Britain. I really wrote this book because it's a book that the younger me desperately wanted to read, that I feel had a book like this existed when I was growing up, it would have helped me locate myself in this country, work out my sense of identity and belonging. But I haven't just written it for people with experiences like mine. I believe that we all need to grasp our identity as a nation, the truth about who we are, our history, and what we are becoming. I think the only way to deal with this is to tackle it, all the awkward, difficult, and uncomfortable subjects, head on. That's exactly what I've tried to do with this book. Thank you.